Hey, hey, winning season fam. Welcome back. Today, y'all, we're going in because we have Traci with us, who is the author of a book that is coming out very soon. This is How You Love Her. So, Traci, welcome to the Winning Season podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
I'm equally excited. I love this book. So, let's start off with your bio and then we'll get into some fun. Traci Saulsberry is a senior communications executive, leadership coach, and writer. At 27, she became one of the youngest Black executives at NBC. Yes, at NBC, where she spent 14 years shaping narratives at the highest levels of entertainment. She later built and led the communications team at Peacock during its launch, managing a team of more than 30 people. She is currently a host and narrator for Calm, the world's leading meditation and sleep app. As a leadership coach, keynote speaker, and adjunct professor at Syracuse, she works with early career professionals, execs, and business owners with the focus of helping people find and own their voice, particularly while navigating spaces where they are underrepresented, which is our community here at Winning Season. She's also an author. Her debut book, This Is How You Love Her, A Radical Journey to Self-Love. It's available for pre-order now, so you definitely want to put the whole book club in this queue. Y'all need to get this one. It releases on August 4th, 2026. Traci, how does it feel that your book is about to be in the world?
It
Oh,
is
already.
it's like kind of in the world. It's
Yes.
exciting. It's nerve-wracking, but it's exciting. I can't wait for people to read it.
Same. Well, I want to kick us off with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So, what are three words that you would use to describe yourself, and none can be a job title?
Yes, I like that. I would describe myself as a light. Um, this is not one word, but a quiet storm.
Okay.
And
Yes. You know what? From reading the book, I can see that. Are you a morning person or a night person?
neither. Morning person. Morning person.
Okay. All right. So, what is one room in your house that best represents who you are right now?
I would say there's a room in my house that me and my son call the book room, and there's books. It's like our little library room, but also his drawings and the movies that he makes up that we've made like pictures of. So there's pictures of like my grandparents. I'd say that that's most representative of me. And I wrote a lot of my book in that room.
I love that. I was going to ask, where did you write? So, what's a song that is your personal anthem at this exact moment of your life?
That is a good question. I'm really into lo-fi beats. So there's like not one there's actually a producer in particular whose name is not coming to me right now, but I like lo-fi beats, no words. That's what I wrote to a lot. Something that like didn't distract me, but had like a nice groove to it.
And what is something that you're currently obsessed with right now that has nothing to do with the book launch?
Currently obsessed. I'm really obsessed with this necklace. My son got it for me for Mother's Day. He's 6 and he's so proud of it. So I'm obsessed with it.
I love that. What is your love language? And do you give that love language as freely as you want to receive it?
I give too much love too freely. That's what I learned writing this book. My love language is words. If someone says something poetically to me or writes me something poetic, I melt.
I love it. And you've mentioned your son a few times. What is the last thing that Cameron said to you that stopped you cold in your tracks?
He told me I'm the most beautiful person in the whole world and that he's going to buy me a mansion with 2 dogs
At 6,
at 6. I'm like, where do you learn this? But thank you.
I feel your ambition in him. He's like already making moves.
He is. He's his own being. I don't even know where he came from. He's beautiful.
So, last question for rapid fire. What is something that you are really good at that would surprise people?
I like to paint. I love oil painting. I started taking classes when I was like around Cameron's age. I was around 6 and I love it. I don't know like how good I am, but it's definitely like a personal release for me. I taught myself how to paint faces and so I paint a lot of portraits of random people.
That is so cool. I recently got into acrylic on canvas and acrylic on plywood.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's been really funky.
I love that. I acrylic dries so fast, so I haven't been able to master that yet. I learned in oils and I kinda like it because you can make a mistake and keep fixing it.
Yeah.
The perfectionist in me that likes
We'll have to circle back
Yeah.
and share some art tips later.
Yeah,
Let's hop into the book.
okay.
I mentioned to you before we started recording, I love the book. I was like wrapped into each page. You have this beautiful way of like pulling me in, and I'm sure it's going to be like that for most readers. And then it's poetic. It's like really hard to describe. It feels like a hug sometimes. And at other times, you're like at the edge of the page, like, what happened next? You did a beautiful job writing this.
Thank you. Literally making my eyes water. Thank you for saying that.
So you call this book a solidarity bird call, and it's a specific image, birds gathering at the end of the day to share where they found food and where the danger was to make the whole group stronger. I'm curious to know who has already called back.
Well, like, in terms of someone who's read it?
Yes.
Yeah, someone who read the book, her name's Nikita, but I was super touched by oh, wait, that's so cute. Your
My
so
espresso
cute.
shot.
I need that. She was super touched by the book in parts that I wasn't even expecting people to resonate with. And so that's what I'm hoping is that people find themselves in my story. And when I was going through my whole journey of trying to find myself, there was so many self-help books. And for me, I felt like I learned more about myself just in hearing someone tell me about what they went through. And if I could see myself, then I could apply it to my life. And so when I set out to write a book, I'm like, I'm just going to tell my story. I'm not an expert. No one is. I've just been someplace and I can share where I've been. And then hopefully someone could find themselves and chart their own path or navigate themselves through what I'm sharing. And so that's where the bird call, bird reference came from.
That is so lovely. There is a chapter in the book where you talk about a woman at NBC who appeared to be a mentor. And without giving away too much, there's a moment where you close the door. And I'm curious to know from you, what is the cost to keep performing okayness when you are not okay?
The cost is your life and your well-being. Like I talk about how my hair fell out and how I'm still fighting to get it to grow back. I didn't realize in it how much I was losing of myself until I stepped out of it. And that's sort of like one of the things that I just want to scream that I hope screams from the pages is like, just pay attention when your body feels a certain way, when your hair starts falling out. If you used to get this crazy heartburn and the second I left, it was gone. And so to pay attention to just your body telling you when it's time for you
Yeah.
to remove yourself or look at yourself more.
I do feel like there's this tendency, especially with Black women, for us to just push through and keep going. And you're doing a call out there to be like, oh, no, no, no. Like, you need to understand the difference between like finishing a project and like paying attention to your wellness and well being.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you shouldn't close the door and cry. Like, it just shouldn't be happening at work or anywhere.
I When I was reading the book, Tracy, I thought back to like one of my early jobs
Mm.
where I used to go to the bathroom and cry because I had a terrible boss. But then one day, another girl who worked with me was in my stall crying. And I was like,
Wait.
this place is crazy. We gotta go.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
like, when you're in it, sometimes it's like, this isn't right, but then it also like, for me, it was so attached to my identity. It's like I didn't know who I would be if I wasn't there, and so that's also something that I try to stress throughout the book is is to just know who you are so that you don't stay in places that aren't meant for you or that aren't healthy for you.
And that definitely resonates.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna jump to one part towards the closing of the book. You talk about the closing letter, you didn't want it to end, that you didn't want to stop talking to the reader or digging into yourself. I'm curious, what does it feel like now that you've written something that changed you while you were writing it?
This book rewrote me. Like, I set out to write something completely different, and as I was writing, which is why there's, like, sort of 3 timelines in the book, there's me talking about the past, there's the moment that I'm in, and or, like, the journey that I went on, and then the present of me writing the book, but it feels I had actually read it back recently too once I got it, and it feels like a me that I left on the page. That was sort of a nice feeling to go back and read it, but I definitely didn't want it to end because I was discovering myself as I was writing it, and
Yeah.
I hope that, that people can feel that as they're reading it and then can discover themselves as they're reading the book.
When you first started the journey, what did you think the book would be?
I thought it was gonna be like a traditional self-help, like, I went on this journey, like, my domestic eat, pray, love, and I found my voice, and, like, this is what happened, I went to I met a horse named Red, and I went to Ojai, and, I wanted it to be narrative, but also in, like, a sort of a new way of doing a self-help, but I didn't realize that when I was writing it, I would be sort of confronted with everything that I was saying I figured out. It was like a test of like, "Oh, did you really figure that out?" Or, do you really know who you are?
So I got this essence, like somewhat of a Pima Children vibe as I was reading it because it kind of felt like as you were writing it, as I'm reading what you're writing, there was some falling into it and you just kept falling into it. And that was like very mystical. What was that for you real time?
Hard.
Yeah.
Very hard. I struggled with myself in, like, writing this, like, I had to pull myself out of myself to get it onto the page, and that was I remember the first time, I had, like, pages due to my editor, and I did which is why the chapter starts off with perfectionism. I think I submitted, like, 16 pages, and I had gone through them over and over, and she was like, "You're gonna have to write a lot more than this." And she was like, "Don't be an editor, don't edit yourself, just write." And that was the hardest thing I think anyone has ever said to me because it was my first, I think, like, confrontation with freedom. And, like, to be told that you can be free and just write was actually very scary. And it was very hard for me to just let go and let it out, but I did, and I hope it I hope it touches someone.
It truly will. I want to also jump into a different element. So you are an executive, you're a mother, a writer, and someone who is doing some of the hardest work while you're doing a very public project. How do you stay anchored when every room you walk into is asking for a different version of yourself?
I have since going on this journey and writing this book, I've tried to have one version of myself. Obviously, like, when I'm a mother, I'm showing up and, like, I'm tapping into different parts of me,
Yeah.
but I think that is one thing from the book is I'm trying to just be consistently me, and I think in the past, even, like, in my more corporate work, I would have tried to not talk about my book or some of my creative things, and now it's just, like, open, like, this is me, I'm consult clients, I'm still working in publicity at a very high level, and I'm also writing a book, and I'm also talking at Common, I'm just allowing myself to be all of me in all spaces. And because it was hard, like I remember I would be working, running a team, and then I would come home and it's not realistic to tell someone to like take that off and to like then not be, a leader in that leadership sort of mode
Right.
or what was required of me in those spaces. And it feels very nice to just be fully all of the parts of me in every part of every space that I'm in.
There's this gap that happens for a lot of high achieving women where they have built something on the outside, but it's not reflecting who they are actually on the inside. And I picked up on this a lot in the book. What does that gap feel like when it first shows up? And how do you know when it's time to start closing it and start showing up in your truth?
Well, I hope my book shows, without giving away too much, that like I hope it stops people from having to get to the sort of bottom that I felt like I got to in order to start figuring that out. Like for me, I everything had to go away. I had to sort of lose everything for me to then be like, okay, wait, now that none of those titles are here and none of those sort of like masks, I'm not allowed to wear them anymore. So I had to figure out who I was. But I know that there's a way to like get to that before the point at which I got to it. And so I hope that, like I said, through sharing this story, people could at least be inspired to say, like, oh, wait, who am I outside of that title? Because I do
Right?
this workshop, I am statement workshop, where like exactly how you asked at the beginning, who are you? But like not your titles. Like, who is
Yeah.
Tracy, you know? But yeah, it's definitely hard to get beyond the titles because that's what society tells us to.
It is so difficult to like let those loose. And when you go to parties or even if you're on an airplane, the first thing people ask you is like,
What do you
what
do?
did you do?
Yeah.
And if you try to skirt around it, people are so attached. You're like,
Yeah.
you hear me? Like,
Yeah.
what? Give me your title. Yes. I love also, I think what will help people is that you have these questions in the book. And y'all, my book is, was telling Tracy, I have some sections for the podcast and some parts that are bookmarked for me. Like this part is speaking to my soul. But I do think one of the things that will help people, and maybe this is also because you do coaching as well, you're asking questions to get people to think about it. So I think that prevents someone from getting to rock bottom because if they're reading the book and actually working along with you and they're being honest with themselves, they're going to be like, "Oh, shit, like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that was there."
Yeah. And I wanted it to be go at your own pace or like write in the book. Like I had this dream. I write a lot in books. Like I write in the
Right.
margin. And I had this dream that I got to a street and like there was books and something, there was stuff all over the street. And I picked it up and it was my book. And I was like, oh no, like no one liked it because they were all over the street. And then I opened them and they were all marked up and tabbed. And I like followed the trail and it was this store of women who had my book and who had like found something in it that changed them. That's what I hope the questions are. It's like you can do it at your own pace. I've never been one who's particularly done well with like charts or frameworks. Like my brain just doesn't work like that. But a
Yeah.
question in my journal that I could answer at my own pace. And maybe you get to one and you can't get there at that point, but you can always go back and mine yourself.
Speaking of journal,
Yeah.
what led you to share pages from your journal in the book? Because I was like, girl, what? Like, that is such a powerful, vulnerable move.
I know at one point I was like, why did I do this? But it's already done. This whole entire book, from the stories that I shared to the journal entries, has just been an act of surrendering. And if it could help someone else, then I put it in there. Or, you know, if it could inspire someone. I hear so much from people, and I felt it. Like it's hard to journal. What do you write? What do you say? And like I wanted to show that you could say anything. It could be messy. It could feel like it has nothing to do with like the larger picture, but talking about a boy or like, you know, something you did can all connect to you just being able to find more of yourself. And I wanted to sort of just demystify the self-help world.
And it goes back to that beginning part of perfection, right? I think part of what makes it difficult for people to journal is we're so prescribed to like doing it right and being, as you say in the book, twice as good and really striving. So then it's like, what do you mean this can just be whatever?
Yeah, like, how do you do it? What do you say? So I hope the questions too just help jumpstart it and then take you down a whole nother road.
At one point, you discuss you had to grieve a version of the life you thought you were building to start building a new one. What does it actually look like to do both at the same time? Because a lot of us think we need to close out grief in one chapter before building the next, but life doesn't work like that.
No, I think it was being honest about how I was feeling. And yeah, like life has to continue. We all have responsibilities and things that we need to do every day. And so I I couldn't just stop and sit in it, but I also could be honest about what I was feeling, which is why journaling is so powerful because no one is watching you. You could say exactly, what you feel, and it's that process of just getting it out that that can change you. I even had a moment recently where I also want to show in the book that like growth is not linear. Like you
Yes.
think you have it figured out and then something else comes up and you're faced with that same question again. And I had a moment recently where I was trying to figure out like why I did something, and it's okay to forget too. I went and tried to do all of the things to find the answers. And ultimately, I was like, oh, wait, there's a chapter in my book called A Map to Me. And I just went to it, I read it, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I get why I made that decision. Like, I got you, girl. Like, I got me. And I think that's the power of journaling too. Anyone could do that. Just write a timeline of who you are because you make more sense to you once you see yourself.
Yeah. Speaking of you make more sense to you in that map, you do talk about a specific moment where you realized you didn't belong to yourself. But I'm curious, what was that first sign? Not the arrival point, but the first sign that you were like coming to yourself again?
Hmm. That's a great question. I don't know if there's like one moment, which I think is also sort of the structure of the book that I was trying to push against. And like the narrative that we see is like you go on a trip and then you do all these things and then you find yourself and then you come back. And the structure of this book is not linear. And at some points, maybe even you're like, wait, where am I in this? And I think the point is like, it doesn't matter. Like, you will find yourself at some point. So at some point you'll look up and you'll be like, "Oh, okay, I get it." But it was a compilation of moments that got you there, not one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think why I resonated with this section of the book, I did this trip a few years ago. It was a work project, 20 dinners around the world.
Ooh.
So 8 continents and always on flights and doing the hotels. It was like dream scenario of like what I thought my New York life would be.
Yep.
And I also was so busy and so in the moment that I really didn't unpack that. But for some reason, I thought when I got back home, I was gonna have my, like, it moment where, like, all clicked.
Yeah.
Didn't, and then I went all the way upstate New York to the Adirondacks to Saranac Lake, and I booked myself into a hotel for 2 weeks as, like, a birthday gift, and I was like, "This is now I'm gonna figure it out. I'm in the middle of nowhere in the middle of winter." And I was like, "Oh, shit." Again, it's like, "Where is this?" And I think part of what pulled me to the book was you saying like, "No, it's not gonna, like, click like a switch. It is gonna be like an unfolding."
Mhm.
But a lot of your journey, you talk about one part that I love, and I'm not spoiling the book, I'm just gonna talk about this little piece. You talk about being in Paris and getting that photo. Can you kinda take us to that moment of, like that was like a transformative moment for you?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was in Paris, and, that goes to the point of, like, you hear a lesson or someone say something to you, and then it's not until years later when you're like, "Oh, when that person said that to me, that's what that meant." But I went to get my aura read, like, years after that. I went to go get my aura read by, the Aura Man, and in that, yeah, I talk about the moment, but I got my picture taken, and what I walk away with is so simple, and I that's also what I just wanna show. It's like, it's just a simple sentence sometimes or a simple encounter or seeing yourself, and then that launched me on going on a journey to try to answer the question that he gave to me by looking at my picture with colors around me. But that definitely was, like, a moment that kept me going.
Yeah. I wanna jump back to the beginning of the book. You
Yeah.
talk about how you grew up in your neighborhood. You were the only Black girl. Your parents were phenomenal in their support for you and preparing you. Do you think the structure that they gave you also created a space where you thought you had to stay in that container or not?
Yeah, I think I write that like we all have our thing. Like you're not gonna like skate out of life without having something. And so in all of the ways that I was protected and given, like, I think without them, I wouldn't have had the confidence that I left with, even despite feeling like I was one of one and feeling that sort of loneliness or not belonging. But also with that, I didn't want to like lose the comforting place. So I didn't want to be imperfect within my my cocoon of my parents because they were the most important. They are the most important thing to me, and especially growing up. And so for every like there's always a give and take, and I think in just writing that out for me, that also it just gives you a release, you know? Like I said, we all have our thing. So while I was protected and loved, I also didn't want to make any mistakes within that protection and love because I didn't want it to go away because it was the only place that felt, really comfortable.
Yeah.
um
Can you
and
talk
again,
a,
yeah,
can you talk a little bit about how you landed on the title?
I there was lots of titles. There was so many titles. This one though, it was like one of the brainstorms, and I was like, "What is this book?" Like, if I was like writing really simply, like in plain words, because that's what I think this book is too. It's like just plain spoken writing.
Disagree.
You do? Oh,
It's not plain spoken in the way we talk about plain spoken.
okay.
It's relatable
Okay.
that
Yeah.
plain spoken way, but it's so beautiful and
Thank
so
you.
it's like your words dance. And that's where I don't feel like it's just that plain spoken because it moves you in a way that you're like carried to the next page and then you want to hug yourself and then you want to be like so I can see the relatableness,
Yeah.
but it is much more than plain spoken.
Thank you. I received that.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, it just was like, what is this book? This is how, like, if it's a self-help book, I was like, this is how you love her. This is my story of how I fell in love with myself. And this is how you can love her, her being you. And that was it. And then I went to a bookstore and there was 4 women, 4 very different types of women, ages, and they all worked there. And I asked them, I gave them like a couple titles and I asked them about this one and they all gravitated towards it. And they were all able to like say what it was without me giving them anything. And so I was like, this is it. I love it. And I also love love, as you probably know from reading the book.
Yes.
So I was like, the book has to say love somewhere.
It's a really beautiful connection. Like once you get to the end of the book, you get it in the beginning, but once you get to the end of the book, it also really hits you like a really good movie where you're like, the title makes so much sense! Exclamation point. So there's a season in every reinvention where it doesn't have a name yet. You're not who you were and you're not fully who you're becoming. How do you stay in that unnamed season without forcing a resolution before it's ready? And I know you demonstrate that throughout the entire book, but like, what do you tell a person who's there?
What I told myself was just surrender. Like, believe, have a goal or like a vision of what you want and just surrender, but also getting to know yourself and then listening to what's happening around you. Like, even particularly with this book, like I had left NBC. I was like, what am I doing? Am I going? Like, do I go back into a corporate role? And there was a lot of really cool opportunities. And this book was like the thing that kept just happening. Like the way that the connections were happening and the way that it was coming to life was not normal or like, it wasn't the normal process. And I feel like if it wouldn't have even been for me, excuse me, going through the journey that I had, I wouldn't have been able to like hear or see what was actually happening and to be like, okay, just surrender. Like even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's not the path that's like most charted or how people just surrender to it and like believe that life and God and whatever you believe in will get you there.
Can you give an example of like what that those serendipitous moments were that led you to say, "Okay, just go with it"?
Like the book in particular?
Yes.
Yeah, I messaged a president of a very big publisher, which is not the publisher that ended up being the book, but I just was like, "I have this idea and I think it's good and this is what it's called and this is what it's about." And it was a Friday. She responded immediately and was like, "Let's talk on Monday." It's like, that doesn't happen, right?
No,
Like,
that does not happen.
yeah. And I just sent a message on LinkedIn. That's why I always tell people, like, if you believe in something or you feel pulled to, like, just do it. Like, because you never know what could happen. And then that led me to, like, working with an editor that introduced me to my agent. That's not how you generally get an agent. I got an agent. We worked on the proposal. We sent it out. I got, like, the publisher that I really wanted to work with who, like, understood because I wanted it to feel just different in structure, and she got me. And, like, just, none of that is the normal route. But when I think something is meant to happen and you surrender to the process and you believe, then a lot of times we stand in our own.
Yeah. Well, I as you're describing that, I'm thinking about that image that was on Pinterest and Instagram for a while. It says hustle and flow, but then hustle is scratched out and it's like a line and flow.
Yes.
That's what it feels like happened in your case.
Yeah. Even my house, like, we write about this in the book for a little bit, but my house, like, this was the last place that I came to. It was the only one left on the lot that was available. It was like an exact price. It's just like, but I just flowed and was like, something told me to come out here. And so I came. And then even the day that my dad talks about all the time, the day I got the keys, like, didn't even had the movers at my apartment, didn't even have the keys yet to the house. Didn't even know if I was going to get them. And I was just like, it's going to work. We're just going to flow. And I mean, within reason, right? But I think when we do that, someone says it, and I don't know who it is, but I'm not saying it. But someone says everything is figure outable.
Yeah, Marie Forleo says,
Yes. Yeah. Everything is figure outable. It'll all work how it's
yeah.
supposed to.
And what I'm hearing also, and it's very evident in the book, it's the curiosity piece. It's that you tap into the curiosity. You're not saying doors closed. You're like, okay, let me see what happens here. Then check this
Yeah.
door. What happens here?
And sometimes you can hit the wrong door if it's
I
wrong.
hear that. Yes, in the
Sometimes,
book.
yeah. Sometimes it doesn't always lead to, positivity, but at least you tried.
You have this part of the book where you talk about the boys, how you can pinpoint different points in your life to like the boy who was in your life. That's like my hairstyles.
I love that.
I could tell a story based on the style that I had. But, why was it important for you to anchor an early part of the book to how you naturally describe your life?
Yeah, I was trying to come up with, like, what is the structure? Like, how do I root this in something? And, like, that is how I remember time. And that's why I wrote, "How do you marker time? I remember it by whatever boy I've loved." And so the boys are more like goalposts or, like, mark. And really, I learned more about myself within those. But I also thought or think it's like a nice exercise of, like, to just ask, like, how do you remember your life? How do you remember time? Because I also, in this idea of getting to know yourself, knowing how you remember is an important part of that. And it tells you even more about who you are and why you move the way that you do. I also love rom-coms. And so
Yes.
I'm like, this is a great way to still have somewhat of a rom-com.
Yeah. I'm gonna pivot from rom-com just for a moment. I've done a lot of work in negotiation, and I have a book, Don't Leave Money on the Table.
Ugh.
And I found a thread that's really interesting with your book. It kind of hit me in reflection is that women who are hesitant to ask or who prep to ask and still don't ask.
Hmm.
And what happens with your book about how do you love her, it comes down to worthiness. So I know you're also a coach, and I wanted to know if you've seen anything that confirms that or complicates that tied to worthiness and being able to advocate for yourself.
I mean, Yes, that's the underlying piece of it all. And when your worth sits within someone else's validation of who you are or someone else's vision of who you are, you're going to make decisions based on however they see you or however they deem you to be worthy. Yeah, that's why the part that I focus on the most, which is also aligned with publicity and just the work I've done, is like, what is your story? Like figuring out who you are and you defining it for yourself, whether you're a person, an executive, moving through the workspace, or you're a brand and you need to figure out what your brand is. Like you identify what your product, your brand is, your person, so that someone else doesn't do that for you. Because yeah, you make decisions then based on, which I did, which I talk about in the book. Like I made decisions based on what I thought other people wanted to see of me, or like what I was supposed to be in order to be able to be worthy enough to be in those positions. And it wasn't even always that someone specifically articulated that to me, right? So then it's like it gets so convoluted and cloudy, and I wish I would have had this book. I wish I would have went on this journey before a lot of my experiences, but then I guess I wouldn't be here. So
Well, it's all of the journey leads you to where you are. I could
yeah.
talk to you all day, Tracy. We want to respect our time, so I'm going to jump into some rapid fire questions
Okay.
before we close. All right. So, what's the one thing women in leadership constantly or not constantly, consistently get wrong about self-love?
I don't think self-love is I don't know if it's like women in leadership, but just in general, I think self-love is more than taking yourself to a spa and
Yeah.
or even like taking yourself on a vacation. I think self-love is spending time like dating yourself and knowing who you are and asking yourself questions. And when I did that for myself, I just began to advocate for myself in a way that I never had before because I became invested in like making me happy. And so I
Yeah.
think that self-love is knowing yourself.
And what's a book that cracks you open?
Ooh, a book that cracked me open. I mean, my favorite book is The Brief but Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. That character, I read that in college, and that character has like stuck with me since I read it. But I think also just from like a writer's perspective, Junot Diaz, his writing is like so elevated, but just like so, I guess kind of like back to our plain spoken. It's just so relatable in how he writes, but yet it's so smart and poetic. And I think he just showed me that you could write in a different way and it still be considered beautiful.
That is nice. What is the best piece of advice that you ignored and you had to learn the hard way?
Probably some boy my dad told me to stay away from.
That's a good one. What is something that you know now that the woman at NBC didn't know?
That I don't have to be perfect, that perfection is not the goal, and that I have agency over my life, my body, my mind.
Yeah. And what does your winning season look like right now?
Being present, and not there's a moment I write about in the book of like there's something to moving too fast. And I even caught myself the other day, like talking about the second book, and it's like we're on the first, and let's be in the moment of this. And so I think my winning season is allowing myself to be present and happy in the present.
Yeah. That is so beautiful and such a gift to yourself. So,
Thank you.
where can the winning season community pre order the book and what else can they do to support you?
Well, pre-sales like really matter because I'm learning this book world. So buy it early. That's like what makes you deemed a good writer and to be able to write more. But they can buy it anywhere books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of the independent bookstores, Rep Club, and Abrams. If you just go to the Abrams book site, it's there. But purchasing it now is the best thing that
Yes,
they could do, and sharing it. If it's something that you think someone you know would love, then share it with them.
absolutely. Well, winning season, I can tell you, y'all know I'm the book lover. This book is definitely one that you might want the audio and the physical book because you need to write in it, and some parts you might want to listen to. You have an audiobook, right?
Yes, and I'm gonna get to read it, which, like, you have to audition for your own
Of
books,
course, because
but I'm really excited. I'm like, "I have to read it. It's my story."
yes. So, yeah, absolutely love the book. As I said at the top of the podcast, this is one that you definitely want for your book club and the group that reads. Even if you silent read, this is definitely one to put into the catalog. I'm saying that because I loved it and I marked so many sections for myself. So, genuinely, Tracy, I feel so honored that you agreed to come to my little old podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for reading it and marking it up and just taking the time. It means a lot.
Thanks so much. Until next time, winning season fam, continue to emulate excellence and eliminate excuses.
Yes.